And as I make the switch over to F1, does Lando Norris have any shot at all to catch Max Verstappen?
If you harken back to Dumb and Dumber, you're telling me there's a chance. There is a chance. It's very small, but mathematically there is a chance. Basically, what needs to happen is Norris needs to try to win his way out for the rest of the season. There's still a lot of races left. I want to say 9, something like that. That's going to be really hard to do on the variety of tracks that are coming up. I think McLaren now firmly has the car to beat. It's no longer Red Bull. And I think the tire troubles that have plagued Red Bull are not going to be present at every single race. So I think if Lando were to win every single race, Max Verstappen finishes, call it second behind him. I think they end up close to tied, if not tied, and it comes down to a tiebreaker at that point. So, and the likelihood of Lando winning his way out is not going to be very good, which is why you see the odds here at plus 250, because Verstappen and Red Bull, just by virtue of the fact that they've still got a good car, and wild things happen in motor racing. We still got 9 races left to go.
That's a stretch, though, doesn't it sound like? I mean, that's even. I don't like minus 370, but I mean, we were betting it. Well, I wasn't, but there were people betting minus 370 to Max to win a race just recently. Why wouldn't, if I had the money, put good money on Max Verstappen to win the championship? Matter of fact, I might even just hope that Lando wins next week and the week after, so that odds comes down, and then I jump on Max Verstappen even more.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, because there are probably 2 tracks where I think Red Bull are truly going to struggle. They're going to, be in the mix with McLaren and Mercedes the majority of the races here on out. But there are 2 tracks in particular, one of them being Singapore. We talked about that last season. That's one that Max Verstappen and Red Bull just have not ever gotten right. But there's going to be a race. There's going to be several races out of these next 9 or so where he's easily on the podium, if not the winner. That happens once, and basically your negative 370 there pays out for you. So you could even take that early cash out if you
That's
wanted
true.
to. But
yeah,
if you, I like your strategy. Hope Lando Norris wins this week and next week, and maybe that comes back to negative 150 still mathematically. Verstappen's, through all statistical probability, is still going to win the championship, because they've just been so out ahead, because they've had such a dominant season. And I think this week at Monza, while I would put Lando Norris as the favorite for the race win, because I think they have the strongest car right now, and Red Bull has to get on top of their tire problems, because despite that, I still see Verstappen as the championship favorite, just from a mathematical and statistical standpoint, because there are going to be several races out of 9, even taking out the 2 that we know they're going to be bad at, where he has in all likelihood the chance to win and beat Lando Norris. And McLaren has the one race, Dutch Grand Prix. They've had several races this year, but remember, leading up to the break, the summer break, they had made a lot of mistakes. They made missed strategy calls. They messed up with the tire options. They messed up putting the cars out on the wrong tires in qualifying. Those things happen. They're not gone. They had a good week, and hopefully they solved some of those problems for Norris to be able to consistently, get better and consistently not have his team take him out of contention in certain weeks when he can win. But Verstappen's right there as well. So it's still a close battle. It's still Verstappen's to win by a long shot, no matter what happens this week, despite the fact that I would say Lando Norris probably should be your favorite this week, with the Max Verstappen being second.
Okay, so then with this race in Italy, as you can see the odds here being, wow. Verstappen is the second choice, and you're getting double your money. Is this a track? So which are the tracks upcoming for Max where you'd say, based on the fact that he's not hot anymore, which are the upcoming tracks where you'd go, yeah, this is not the one I'm taking. I'd just much rather wait for this race?
I would, I would skip Azerbaijan and I would skip Singapore. Definitely skip Singapore. He has never been good. Red Bull has never figured out that track for whatever reason. The Red Bull chassis just doesn't work there. It's a unique circuit. They've not figured it out. So I would skip him in Singapore. Italy this week is going to be a little bit interesting, and I think it's right that Lando Norris and Max Verstappen are very close. So Monza is a very old track. It's a very fast track, and it's punctuated with slow corners. So it's got 3 chicanes, very tight, slow corners. It's got 2 medium turns and then 2 high-speed turns. And the most important high-speed turn is coming onto the main straight. It's the fastest track in Formula One. They reach the highest speeds from a time of the length of the race. Time wise, it's the shortest because they are going so fast. It wraps up really quickly, and it's all about horsepower, as little drag as you can get on those cars. So your grip and your tires don't really come into effect as long as you're able to make passes on the straightaways. So I think Max Verstappen and Red Bull probably stand a pretty good chance of being pretty close to Lando Norris this weekend. I would still put Lando Norris at the front though, just because of that tire issue, because if Max can't get off of those last fast turns onto the front straightaway, then the McLaren's going to eat him up, because again, it's all about being able to maintain that high speed. And if you've got the tires to be able to stick through that last turn 11 onto the main straight, then you're going to be the one that's got the advantage, and I think that's going to go to Norris. But it should be close this weekend. But if you're going to, for those of you wondering where Verstappen and Red Bull are going to be at their weakest, I would say it's the 2 weeks after this one.
Okay, here's the problem I have, though, and that is not about not taking Verstappen, so I'll ask you this question, and that is the fact that Lando Norris is at even money, and he's won 2 races.
Yeah.
So that is completely, strategy-wise for, a handicapper, forget that. Sorry, not doing it. So, but if I still have problems with Max, then maybe that opens the door for someone else. So who would that open the door for if we get rid of those top 2 guys?
I'd say Oscar Piastri by a long shot, and I think these odds are right. So Piastri's in a McLaren. He's won 1 race, so you're getting the benefit there. He's not even money, so you're getting a little bit better odds here. He's in the same car as Norris, so he's going to have the same type of straight line speed. He's going to have the same kind of advantage. He's got roughly the same organization calling the shots for him. Keep in mind, Monza was repaved. So this is a new surface for everyone. The temperature is going to be high. That's going to wear on tires. And we know that Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, and Mercedes have struggled in hot temperatures. So that throws them out, which leaves you with Oscar Piastri, right? So if you don't want even money, you're not willing to take even money on somebody who's won twice, takes 6-1 or 7-1 on Oscar Piastri, who's got 1 race win and is in the same car.
Yeah.
Or you go Verstappen.
All right, there you go. So I like it. Before we go, there was actually we had from Prime. This is
good. I know.
Oh,
the Max Verstappen Kyle Larson beef.
Yeah. Yes, there were a couple of things going on there, and so what do you make of it? First of all, was it is it overblown? What does it even mean?
I don't know. That's hard to answer because you'd have to get inside Max's head to know whether it was overblown. So I totally get Kyle Larson's point. He races on dirt, he races road courses, he races on ovals, big ovals, short ovals. He raced IndyCar, the Indy 500. He did exceptionally well in that as well. So he's uber confident, and he's a guy that can go out in almost any kind of equipment and make sure, put himself in a good position to contest for the win, regardless of whether it's Formula One or IndyCar or NASCAR or sprint car or whatever. Whereas we've only ever really seen Verstappen in the feeder series up to Formula One and in Formula One, and that's where he's made his name. He has not branched out into all these other diverse disciplines. So then that kicks off the argument as to what makes it the best driver. Is it the series? Formula One is widely considered the ultimate form of motorsport and the top of the pinnacle. So because Max Verstappen dominates there, does that make him the best driver? Or do you go back to which I would say is more old school thinking in terms of the diversity? So Kyle Larson is kind of a guy that harkens back to like an AJ Foyt and a Mario Andretti, those types of guys that would go race NASCAR, win the Daytona 500, then go race Le Mans, and then go and win Indianapolis 500 too. So they do a lot of different disciplines. So that's Larson's standpoint. Hey, I do a lot of different disciplines. I win at all of them, so therefore I know I could also hop into a Formula One car and do well too. Whereas Verstappen, he's like, hey, I'm here against the best in the world, and every single series is a little bit different. And yeah, you've got the skill sets that can jump into different series, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're the best driver. I think I fall more on Larson's camp. I think the diversity, like a Fernando Alonso, who's done Le Mans, he's done IndyCar, he's done Formula One, obviously. I think that, to me, is what makes a better, or a, if I'm ranking the all-time drivers, you've got to have some diversity in there as well. Whereas Verstappen, so far, really his success has come just in one discipline.
Okay. By the way, who is that genius engineer that's leaving?
Adrian Newey.
Okay, does this have anything to do with why Verstappen and the team is kind of struggling a little bit? Nothing, zero.
Not this soon. Newey's loss is going to be felt in the next generations of cars.
Okay.
Keep in mind, these rules have been relatively static for a couple of years, and Red Bull has dominated for a couple of years. So I think the ceiling of the maximum that they can get out of their current design has been reached. So I think Newey feels like, okay, we've gotten the max out of this platform. I'm going to go and I'm going to take the opportunity to do something completely new. Whereas McLaren, Mercedes, etc., they're just now hitting the pinnacle of what they designed a couple of years ago, the base, the core of that design. And so Newey leaving absolutely hurts, and maybe there's some quick impacts that are felt, but I think the true impact of Newey leaving is going to be on the next generation car, and maybe even more so the following generation car for Red Bull.
Okay. And then on Prime Tire, they did have a little bit of a debate back and forth regarding this. They had writers here that basically they threw in their own opinion on what they thought about that, the whole Verstappen versus Larson deal. So you get everybody's opinions here. You can check it out. So do you think Larson's claim is correct? Is it possible he is the better driver? Smith says no. I think it massively underestimates just how good Max Verstappen is. What do you think, sir? Mr. F1 NASCAR expert? Who's better? If you can determine who's better.
I don't think you can, because you haven't seen them in the same equipment yet. I think both have to do a lot of diverse racing, and so far, I'd probably put Larson a little bit ahead, because Larson's got the demonstrated experience in different disciplines, whereas Max has, he's got karting and he's come up through the ranks, but it's all been primarily the F1 feeder series. So when Max decides to go and race Le Mans, when Max decides to go do sports cars or perhaps rally or something else, and he achieves success there, wins races, etc., then I think it's probably a more a better conversation to have at that point. Right now, Max Verstappen has clearly had the best car for several years. He's up against some of the best drivers in the world. That is absolutely not diminishing the fact that Max is one of the best in the world. But he is the best in the world at Formula One. We haven't seen Kyle Larson in Formula One for several years, so I don't know what Larson would be able to do in that respect either. But because of the demonstrated diversity, Larson just gets the edge for me.
See, the thing is that you would think, How many times has Max Verstappen won a championship?
3.
3 so far in a row?
I believe so. Has it been more than that? It's been 3. 3 in a row on his way to 4. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal I have is, shouldn't we wait for Kyle Larson to win 3 or 4 in a row NASCAR championships before we start competing who's the best driver in the world? I mean, Larson's got 1 championship. We just talked about it, I don't know how many times in this show, how inconsistent he's been this season. You know, I mean, there have been, I don't know how many drivers have had much better seasons than Kyle Larson's having this year, just dating back the last 5 or 6 years. The dominating years that some of these drivers have had. He's one of them, but it's just, I think we're getting a little bit carried away. Now, I'm not saying that, I mean, because I totally agree with what you're saying regarding Kyle Larson can be very good in a variety of different series. That's fine. I'm good with that. But I just think it's important, though, for me, that I just think that he needs to be that dominant in NASCAR before we start comparing him to someone who's that dominant in F1. That's just me.
Well, I think also you've got to look at the parity of the series as well. Like, who has dominated NASCAR since the since the knockout round series has begun, and really nobody. So to win a championship in the format that NASCAR is, with the level of competition NASCAR has, I think it's probably harder. I think there's
absolutely
a bigger gap
yes
between cars in Formula One than there is in NASCAR, and that therefore makes it harder to win a race and dominate. So again, I don't think there's a comparison that you can truly make until we start seeing them do similar things.
Yes.
As of yet, they've not done similar things.
Yeah.
Larson to me gets the edge because I kind of agree. I can't see Max Verstappen coming over and winning the Chili Bowl Nationals. I think was a quote that I saw in there at some point. I don't think he can do that.
Yeah,
I just don't think he can. Nor do I think that Verstappen can come in and win the Cup championship either.
Yeah,
and if he can, he's certainly not going to dominate it for 3 years in a row.
No.
So who is right?
Sure.
It's a debate. It's an interesting conversation. For me personally, just based on the fact that I'm more old school, I like the diversity, so therefore Larson gets the edge. But I still think to be successful in Formula One is being at the best at the pinnacle of the motorsport, so that carries a certain prestige along with it.
By the way, who is another current driver you feel could be in the conversation for the best all-around racer on the planet? Smith has Alonso.
Yep. He's in his twilight years now, but yeah, Alonso at his best was probably the closest, I would say, in terms of equal of diversity of what Larson can do, because Alonso left Formula One, came back, and had success. Alonso's gone on, he's won the 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's a Formula One champion. He's come to IndyCar, and he probably could have won the Indy 500 as well. So that, to me, speaks volumes about his capacity as a race car driver, and I think that's a similar conversation that you can have a more apt comparison to somebody like a Kyle Larson, because again, they've done some similar things there, whereas Verstappen, he's just not demonstrated it yet.
Yeah, good luck.
And of course, Ginsbergen has to be in that conversation too. I mean, the supercars are an extremely tough competition. The competition is extremely tight there. It's superb driving skills on really difficult cars and tracks. So Van Ginsbergen, absolutely, he's a great race car driver as well, and is showing his diversity right now.
And all time, it has to be. Miss Smith says it has to be Mario.
Yeah, I'd say Mario or AJ Foyt, to be honest with you. I think both have done some pretty great things across various disciplines, including IndyCar, Formula One, and NASCAR, as well as sprint cars. All of them, or both of them, I should say. So I think those two have to be in the conversation by themselves.
Awesome, excellent. We're done. CJ, appreciate it. Don't forget to check out when we post this show. If you're watching it, you're watching it. It's been posted, so check out the link in the description for CJ's F1 report at rotowire.com. And if you NASCAR fans are still watching, same thing for when I do the starting lineup report on Saturday. And it's going to be my first go around. I got to check the time for when the I got to check it out. You don't need to know, but the fact is I got a post game show for college football around 4:00. I got college football games going on all over the place, so I'll fit it in. I promise you I would, and I will. So it should be as long as it's not around 4:00, then we should be good to go. I'll be busy up until probably between 4 and 5, but depending on when qualifying takes place, if it's not around that time, it should be up within about a half hour after qualifying ends on Saturday. So that's for NASCAR. This is also for F1. CJ, appreciate your time as always.
Thank you for having me.
And next week, no F1. Next week, the NASCAR playoffs begin, if you can believe it, with Atlanta. So we'll be previewing the playoffs. It's good that we have no F1 because we'll have the extra time to preview the playoffs, give our predictions, futures, all that kind of stuff. So that's on next week's show. And who knows, since we've been doing this at 4:00 each week, if we're still going to feel pretty confident we can do this at 4:00 next week, maybe we'll go live. So get your input. If you want us to go live, let us know in the comment section. And we'll see you guys next week.